we can point to the values throughout the restaurant, and when we're speaking to team members, it allows them to know, are you in alignment with what we're doing? Really want to be able to point back to say, hey, this is what this looks like. This is the person who gets their full-time hours. This is the person who gets paid more money. This is the person who gets opportunity.
Successful leaders make building healthy culture a priority. Meet other leaders who are building a culture where people want to stay and know how to win together.
Hey leaders, welcome back to the Build Your Culture Brand podcast. I have with me today special guest Eddie Brown from Rialto, California. Welcome to the show, Eddie.
Hello. Happy to be here.
So good to have you. Heads up for everybody. I mean, Eddie and I, we've been working together with his team for a little while, and we'll get into that story a bit, but our team has enjoyed working with your team. You're an amazing leader, got an incredible team. And today we're going to dive into a few topics, but specifically you've gone through a merge. So you moved from one, we'll get into that story, but you've gone from one location to another. So I want to talk about how do you merge two leadership teams? And then in the midst of that, building a thriving culture, especially when there's kind of been two sets of promises made that you've got to kind of work through, and we'll dive into that. And then also just this whole, with this, you coming in, the reset of expectations. So those are our three big ideas. But just wanted to dive into that first one on the merging two teams. So tell a little bit about the story, maybe even step back into how your first big experience with Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm.
Then you became an owner operator in Santa Monica, and now you're in just a few miles down the road in Rialto. So kind of thumbnail that story for us.
Yeah, so I started with Chick-fil-A in 2007. It was technically my second job, but really today it just feels like my first. And I was in high school and just really hoping to be able to earn some money, put in my pocket, buy all the cool happenings at the time, and help out at home also. Before I knew it, graduated high school. I was in and out of college. And 7 or 8 years had gone by, and I was like, wow, I'm still here. And realized that I loved what I do. I was working with a lot of great people. A lot of them are still my friends today. And so, I think I can do this. I would love to be able to do that. And I love working with my boss at the time, the operator I worked for, Robert Hinson. And so, decided, hey, I'm gonna go all in. And so, I transitioned to a restaurant in Downey, California, where I was a GM. And we were, we opened up. It was a pretty wild experience. And after a few years of working there, I said that, we've done a lot of great things here. We've achieved a lot of great successes, symbol of success, multiple years in a row, and all that. So I think it's time. We actually had another operator be selected out of our restaurant, and then that was trained by me, Travis Collins, good friend of mine still too.
Yeah,
And
Travis is also in the Leaders Q family, so
yeah,
great guy. Enjoy
and
working with him in Santa Barbara.
yes. And so I said, yeah, it's time. So I put my application in, and 28 months later, I was selected for Santa Monica DTO in LA, on the west side. And that's where I got my first real experience as an owner operator. And after serving 2 years there in that community, my wife and I, we relocated to the Inland Empire in Rialto, California. Just for context, they are about 100 miles away from each other, so very different parts of the LA DMA overall. But yeah, it was a really interesting transition from one restaurant concept that's a drive-through only to another one that's the freestanding unit, has the drive-through, has the dining room, and all the shiny great things. So yeah, that's kind of where I got my start.
That's so
And
good.
Here we are now.
Here we are. And our team had the privilege of working with your leaders there at the drive-through only location there in Santa Monica, and so just got to really see the caliber of leaders that you've been able to gather together. It's impressive, and some of the amazing stories of even community transformation that y'all were able to do, just making the neighborhood better, and taking it upon yourself. I know y'all did like some real deep work on like even just trash pickup in your area and things just to make the whole neighborhood better. So I love that. And I would imagine now the kind of what we're wanting to dive into is this merge then. So you brought several leaders, handful, 5 or 6 leaders, I think, from that location, and brought them in 100 miles away to this existing location that already had a team. They'd already had some success, and they'd already had some promises and promotions made. So love to talk about how what if you were to talk to someone who's about to go through that, what would you say would be some best practices for merging two strong teams?
Yeah, the word transparency came to mind, and so for me in my leadership, I feel like one of the large qualities, one of the biggest qualities and characteristics that I have is just leading with honesty and transparency. And so I really wanted to, so as we were transitioning, myself and the existing leaders I had on my team, we did a sort of a planning meeting as we're transitioning to Rialto and saying, hey, here's a current scoreboard, and setting expectation for them of, hey, this is what we're kind of getting into. This is a larger volume restaurant, larger team, their existing team, all of the existing leaders will be staying. And so this is what we're getting ourselves into. And as we were planning or getting into like orientation with the Rialto team and say, hey guys, I've been with Chick-fil-A for a very long time, and trying to give them some sort of uh, just giving them some peace and say, hey, I know what I'm doing. And the team that I brought with me is excited and energized and eager to continue with the success that we already have amongst each other. So we really want to be able to uh, distribute that synergy, same synergy to the current team, get their buy-in, get your trust, and because I believe we can make some magic happen. And so I really just want to be transparent with them and say, hey, yeah, we're really not trying to rock the boat here. You guys are you 6-year-old restaurant. You've done great, highest volume restaurant in that market. And we believe that we can kind of take it up a notch with some of the things that with our skill sets and things that we're good at. So I just led with that and want to start with that with them. That way they were at peace with, okay, all right, we have a new boss. And because a lot of them were very, very scared of what was coming. They didn't know they had a job because that's just the way the process works, one employer to the next. And so started there, interviewing the team and get to know them, and really trying to recognize if they were going to be a good fit for the new team coming in. So,
Yeah, I love how you're. So I hear two things in there. You're establishing some stability,
mhm,
kind of stabilizing a rocky boat, all kind of that uncertainty of the future. And so kind of just allaying fears, stabilizing. But then
mhm,
I hear also this idea of casting a vision of future, like, hey, there's a bigger vision, a bigger thing that we can do if we'll do it together.
yes,
And I'd love for you to join me. So I love that kind of two-part vision casting of, you know, get 2 feet on the ground and
hmm,
then start pointing off into the horizon and say, here's where I want to go.
yep,
So
that's
good
exactly
way to
it.
describe that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So then were were there some things you might have done differently, looking back, and you know you're merging these two teams? I'm sure that led to some uh, tough conversations, some conflict along the way. Is there anything that you would say, hey, here's a pitfall, avoid
Mm.
this?
We really didn't have much time. Time was not on our side on this. We had about a month to transition a restaurant. Me transition out of Santa Monica, and then also at the same time transition to this new restaurant. So the checklist was very long. So be able one of them being, let's meet with the team. Let's find out who we will be adding to our team and who we will not, and let's communicate what our plan is. Um, I mean, that's one of the big things I would change to definitely give more time. It's very difficult, especially in California, to be able to, avoid. any sort of idea of being a joint employer, and this is your old boss, this is your new boss, and so um, and we didn't have a whole lot of time to sit and chat with the team, so it was very quick. It felt like we were in an elevator, and it was just tell me your name, what's your position, what could be different working here. That way we can kind of gather this idea of, okay, from the team's perspective, what they would like to see different, some of the hiccups there. That way we can come in and start creating a list of things. All right, cool. Let's prioritize what we will go for after first and go from there once we've heard the team's grievances. But yeah, I think that time was definitely not on our side. So it was just a lot of go, go, go. And before we knew it, July 1st was um, upon us. So
Yeah, gotcha. I love that description of coming in and realizing, you know, I don't know, from what I hear in that story is there were some perceived changes that the existing team, we'll call them the Rialto team, the one you're coming into, they had some desires and wishes, kind of a wish list. Sounds like you went and gathered that wish list as part of, letting them have buy-in, and they're also boots on the ground. They understand exactly what's going on. They probably have a better picture, and I hear that, there's kind of a legal constraint for you in, the handoff from one owner to the other had to happen basically overnight. I mean, legally it happened overnight. And even though you may have had a month, but your hands are tied kind of before that midnight hour. And so, coming in, just diving in like that so quick. So I love that idea of kind of hearing their wish list. But I'm curious now. Did you try to make changes in the first 30 to 60 days? And if so, what reached the level of, yeah, we're going to do this change even though we're so early?
it's a great point. So the plan was first 30 days, we're going to listen and learn. That's what I told I was calling them the launch team from Santa Monica. The launch team, hey, we're going to work the first 30 days. Let's listen and learn. Let's just everything's going to feel like, oh, why do you do that? Or, oh my gosh. And so let's just listen and learn. After on day 31, we'll make some changes here and there. No joke, we probably got into week two, and my existing the launch team was so excited and really eager to hit the ground running early on. I was like, hey Eddie, like we don't need to wait the 30 days. Let's do it now. And I'm viewing them as experts because they're in the trenches way more than I am, and so I was like, all right, well, if you guys got a feel of the team and they feel like they will receive these changes, whether it means moving this sauce over here or changing colors on the screen or whatever it is, you have more probably buy-in than I do at this point. And so if we can cash in on a little bit of the deposits we've been making over the 2 weeks, then let's do it. So um, yeah, and some, with most teams, right? It's you have some that are all in and on board, and you have others that are, yeah, they came in 2 weeks, they were changing all these things, um, and so we had some of that kind of rumbling throughout the restaurant, um, but yeah, we for the most part, the majority of the team was like, oh, great, yeah, we've actually, been asking to make this change, and so, and even if it worked or if it didn't, we tried it out, and so, I feel even that was some buy-in with the team, the current team, at Rialto, so it was good.
I think keyword there is buy-in. So, I mean, what's a way? And you've described some of it, but is there anything else in there that helps with buy-in? I hear listening. I hear listening their ideas. But here, let's say maybe there's a change that they didn't offer or suggest. I mean, how do you still get as much buy-in as
Yeah.
possible?
It was important for me to make myself available. So,
Okay.
as looking throughout the organization, yes, I have a GM, but there's the local owner who's there every day. And so, maybe even bagging with me side by side or helping in the dining room, whatever it may be. I think being available was very helpful in this transition. So, that meant, being on the floor, but also, hey, here's a QR code. You can scan it, that my schedule's there. It's updated weekly. Use it as you please. I'll tell you right now, majority of them didn't. But again, it's posted in the break room. You have the ability to do that, where we can talk through, what's going on, or what you would like to see different, or learn more about me, with my journey with Chick-fil-A, or whatever they want to talk about. I allowed them to use that time as they pleased. So yeah, just making myself available to them, I think is it was extraordinarily helpful in building up buy-in with them.
That's so good. And what a great role for you to play. I mean, I don't know how this plays out like in the so a decision is made and let's say one of your leaders, one of your launch team is kind of pushing a decision and then you have someone coming in kind of around them to you saying, "Hey, I don't like this decision." What would you say would be a good process for not arresting the authority of that launch person? How do you keep from undercutting their authority by still meeting with those individuals?
Hmm. Yeah, it was happening in one or two ways. It was either I was um, already in the know on that change, or two, I wasn't. And after hearing with the team, kind of threw out some possibilities. Hey, we're working on, like one of the things would have been, hey, we're working on one of the uh, customer experience modules that we work with CM scores. It's ease of receiving order. So if we're working on that area of our business, trying to make that score better because guests are telling us, "Hey, I've placed my order. It's hard to pick up, or I'm confused, or whatever it may be." So trying to get them to understand it through that lens, like, "Hey, this change is actually going to help in this area of our business," and to give them context for it, because a lot of times, we go in and move a thing around, and the team just goes, well, Monday it was like this and Tuesday it's like this. And so now they have given them context into why that decision was made, why that thing was moved or changed. I think really helped and moved mountains for them. Like, oh, okay, well, that makes more sense. Like, yeah, like we want to remove or decrease the amount of steps to get to this product, or we just want to overall create a better team member experience. So I think it really helped. It was phenomenal in getting them to understand that.
Man, what a great description. And I can see how that fits into really any organization that the topmost leader or leaders, one of their key roles is really context and why. You know, what's the why behind this? Because obviously it's creating friction for them or it's just a change or it feels awkward or off-putting to them for whatever reason. And for you to come in, it's kind of like that little bit of sandpaper to sand off the edges of no, here's the why. Yes, it's hard. We're going to have to get through it. But on the other side of this, there's a better world, and I want to invite you to it. Plus, you have the larger view of the business, the largest view of the business. Well, Eddie, thanks for that explanation of how some of the challenges of merging two teams, diving into that just in another angle, kind of take another angle of that, of the tension of culture creation. Just as you've described it, it sounds like you're basically taking two different, like, sister cultures, you might say, or cousin cultures. You're trying to merge those together, and that can create tension. So, what were some of the strategies you used to revamp the store culture? What did it become a third culture, or were you trying to duplicate a different culture from the original place?
That's a great question. I think the for me it was wanting to relocate the heart of my culture to this new place. And so what I mean by that is that there was an attempt in my previous restaurant to create a culture that, I've been with Chick-fil-A for so long, that I've seen in different restaurants at the support center in Atlanta, and the people that I've been in contact with over the years. So I was trying to create that hometown Sri Cathy experience in Santa Monica. It was a uphill battle with that one, in so many different ways. But the heart of it, I wanted to bring and into Rialto. So it was a mix of what we've what we had already attempted to do or did in Santa Monica, and then I wasn't trying to erase any of that previous operator there, but I wanted them to know that I am not him, and that I have had a lot of success in my leadership journey. That I think I know what works, but I will have to learn this area. I'll have to learn this team, the culture of this city, and the existing team here. So, uh, we one of the things that kind of came up is there was you know a set of policies and procedures already existing. And so, unfortunately, the team members that were kind of on the cusp of maybe a promotion or they kind of fell sort of victim to the transition. And so when the transition happened, it was all new news to me. It's like, well, I just finished. I checked off the last box, and so this is a month I'm supposed to be promoted. It's like, oh, okay. And so we had to, we there wasn't one way to do it. We kind of took it situational, and so from person to person, and so just had to try to create a relationship with each one, and talk them through. Hey, we are, because I also kept everyone at the role that they had before the transition. We may have rephrased a title or two or changed some of the responsibilities, but at the core, they're still the same role. And so um, we just wanted to make sure we it communicated to these individuals that we are obviously in a transition. We're kind of taking the first 30 days to um, you know experience each person and their journeys, and we want to be able to analyze and see if this is still going to be a good fit for you, and we can go up or go down, right? And so it kind of just depends on where we're at as a business, where your skill sets lie, where the gaps lie, and so most of them understood that this was a very unique situation, and that it could be unfortunate for them because they had worked towards creating this momentum to get to this place, but it may be gone, just due to the nature of the transition. So, um, but overall, it was received pretty well. They understood, but it was one of the kind of the hiccups in that.
Yeah, I would imagine their reaction to that, it could be very telling about whether or not they are, to be long term with you. That just it has a way, when someone said, when your cup gets bumped, what spills out shows what's on the inside. And so that could be one of those moments where their cup's getting bumped, and whatever spills out is revealing of character. And of course, give grace and realize that it's frustrating and upsetting, but but it is important how we handle challenges when this is new. There's new rules, and the person that made you those promises isn't here anymore, and we've got to reestablish what the current promises are. So that's tough. As you talked about that idea of bringing your launch team over, it reminded me of this idea of you've got this blazing fire over in one fireplace, right? And then you've got kind of a somewhat of a fire in another fireplace, but maybe a lot of fuel ready. And if you bring some of the hottest coals from the center of that fire, bring them over to the kind of the dying fire, it has a way of reigniting the flame. It sounds like what you're able to do with your launch team is bring over some hot coals, people who are just really bought into you and your culture, the thing you're trying to do. There was a whole lot less you had to explain to them. In fact, they were almost cloning you through the organization. That seems like that would accelerate. I mean, what would you say? Does that accelerate your ability to transform the culture, or would it? I mean, would it have taken? How much longer would it have taken to build the culture you're trying to build?
That's a great point and great question. Yes, my DNA was sort of running through my launch team. And I honestly think if I went into this alone, it would have taken me the first number that comes to mind is at least a year to really establish. any sort of um, positive culture change. It's funny because yesterday I was with the team and we're kind of in the process right now doing performance reviews, and we do them quarterly for my director level and executives. And so it kind of came up of culture kind of came up. And so, and just sitting in awe of, hearing from some of my directors, some who were existing at the restaurant prior to, and just saying, hey, it's great to see the team sort of ignited, right? To use that image, like they are excelling, they're flourishing in their maybe new roles, or even if they were demoted in some way, they're flourishing now because they're not no longer probably drinking out of a fire hose, right? And um, so that was really great to hear, and I was encouraged by that to say, man, all right, a year in, and we still have a majority of the team, and to hear that they're excited about what they're doing, see where we're trying to go, and excited by that. Um, and a lot of them are still trying, figuring out their next steps because they're in college or whatever what it may be, but are looking at Chick-fil-A long term. So that encouraged me, and I was excited by it. And so, um, but yes, it was, yeah, definitely trying to light a new fire, so far away, and yeah, I'm glad that it did ignite. So
There you go. It's a flame. Well,
yeah.
and on that note, kind of let's go in a different direction then, as far as like, so you've got that first phase, you're a year in now. At what point do you feel like you really were able to step on the gas? And what was that first thing that you really pressed in on? Like we're putting major over indexing in this area. What were some of those first choices?
I would say it was probably 6 months in, and so took over July of last year. So once we got to December and we're kind of planning for 2025, we talked through all the normal business metrics, profitability, sales, CM scores, and all the other things. And so, we really wanted to CEM scores was definitely top of mind for me.
So customer experience, just for our listeners, so they
Yes,
understand.
yeah,
Yeah, the
customer
the
experience
the
was.
customer rating of you.
Yes, customer experience is definitely top of mind. Being one of the busiest restaurants in the market, um, so how guests perceives long lines or things like that, right? Full dining room, all that, and so one of the things I really wanted to shift in the restaurants, like, hey, we got to bring in like a full-time dining room host or hostess, versus utilizing some of our team members who maybe speaking to people isn't you know their bread and butter, and so we want to bring in someone who has that energy, who has a personality, building engage with our guests, because our scores are telling us that maybe the guests are feeling more like a transaction than feeling cared for. So that was one after 6 months, like, all right, this is the change we have to make, and so we really started seeing a shift in how our guests were responding to their visits. Maybe they're eating there more often, or, you know, they were getting a different experience than they were 6 months ago. And so that was really telling to me, like, all right, we're making moves here. We're going in a direction that we need to be. Our guests are telling us that. So that really, again, another encouraging moment.
That's so good. Have you been able to, I know you're seeing all the numbers, all the metrics, and there's, 47 different types of metrics you can be looking at that you've just described many of those. How involved are your leaders in watching them, seeing the metrics before you are? Are they, how hungry are they? How have you equipped them to be ready to own those metrics?
That's great. So we meet all together once a month, and we talk through essentially how the month went, the prior month went, and in relation to their different departments. So, the kitchen is talking about food waste. They're talking about, um, yeah, supply chain, equipment, all that type of stuff. Front counter's talking about the guest experience, car counts and drive through, speed of service, all that type of stuff. And so, And then they're meeting with my GM pretty consistently. I want to say it's weekly, and talking through those metrics and hey, where are we at? What have we made leaps and bounds, or have we taken a step back? And what can we do to really start making some movement on these different metrics. So yeah, we're utilizing, and that's one of the things I've learned too in being an operator. I'm in my third year, and so a lot of times I'm talking to myself or talking to my GM, and we're talking about these things and using the language, the Chick-fil-A language, and so a lot of times it doesn't really cascade down, and so we really want to keep it top of mind to use the terminology, and in the same way that we use like that, like an example of this is being able to see our values within the restaurant. Like we talk about it amongst ourselves pretty consistently, but the team is not seeing it. And so they're like, I hear you guys talk about it, but I don't know what you're talking about. But now, that's one of the first things we did when we got there is to put these things up. So when they walk through the restaurant, they see,
That's so good.
you know,
One of the things I've noticed doing leadership on the other side of the world and here is uh, leadership really is a lot based on a language. We need to create within the culture that we have is a leadership language, and it becomes shortcuts for deep buckets of meaning. So, like you just said, like, name one of your values. What would be one of the values that y'all use?
honesty.
So honesty. Now, in any other context, honesty might mean, various things, but I would imagine y'all have kind of volumes and examples and people where you've built and say, that right there, that's what we're talking about, that kind of honesty in these situations. And so having really story and ideas and teaching all packed into one word becomes now a shortcut for helping people to get to that place of displaying that value. I feel like that's what you're describing of creating that language. Even you mentioned using Chick-fil-A language for metrics. It's like, why reinvent the language? Let's just
Mhm.
use the language that's already there.
Exactly.
So for y'all, how has um, the values that you've created, how has that gained momentum to where it's now making a difference in the organization?
It's something we can point back to. We can point to our, the values about the restaurant, and when we're speaking to team members, it allows them to know, are you in alignment with what we're doing? Are you the profile of the employee that we want working here? Because if you're taking shortcuts, or yeah, if you're taking shortcuts or doing things not by the book, or speaking, down to one of your members of your team, like that's not in alignment with me, and that's not someone who I want in my business. So really want to be able to point back to say, hey, this is what this looks like. This is the person who gets their full-time hours. This is the person who gets paid more money. This is the person who gets opportunity. And so and if that's something that they cannot um, you know see themselves doing or being a part of, then that's sort of how they're able to find their way out uh,
It
into.
really
Yeah,
comes down to alignment, doesn't it? Like,
yeah,
it these are ways to test the alignment of different people, different attitudes. But I love how you just, you attached, okay, we're talking about values here, even that word value, you attached it to say these are behaviors that we will invest more in. We'll actually put dollars to these values, promotions and opportunity. So I love how you pack in value into your values. It's like really maximizing that idea within your organization. Well, thank you again for trusting us with your team. Thanks for sharing your story today. You're just this whole idea of the challenge of merging really two cultures, two organizations. Sifting through all of that, listening to the kind of home team, and you're bringing in the guest team to, but yet that's the culture that you're really wanting to introduce. It's the culture you've built, and then just this idea of investing in your leaders. Appreciate all that you're doing for your organization. I just wish you all the best future success. We're looking forward to seeing all the years ahead.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys. You guys have been amazing, and I've learned quite a few things from yourself as well. And so I'm just happy and blessed to be in a position and a role where I'm able to, you know, freely give my learnings and really get people to where they want to be. And so excited to be here. Excited to be in partnership with Chick-fil-A to be able to do this, and hoping someone's getting something out of this. So.
Well, we're going to get your story out to the world and let them pass along. If you are listening and you want to subscribe, just hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you around for other interviews and just other amazing people like Eddie. And so go ahead and subscribe and follow us there. And we'd love for you to follow us. We put out information every week on LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook. We put out a question that you can use called Lead with a Question. You can use that with your team to help inspire leadership. So you get to meet other people like Eddie and learn about their stories. So Eddie, thanks for being on the show. We look forward to seeing you again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Build Your Culture Brand with Dr. Jay Rains. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, comment, and share. See you next time.